Alright, for this final part of this video series, I'm going to show you how to create a GUI or a HUD, and I'm going to show you how to create an advanced sprint mechanic which involves a depleting sprint meter whenever you press shift, which is quite advanced but pretty easy to do. So let's get into our third-person character blueprint and let's create two new variables. The first being is sprinting, and that will be a boolean, and the second is going to be called, let's call it sprint meter, and let's make that a float variable. Let's make that default 100. Alright, so what we want to do is go to our sprint left shift mechanic here, and when we do successfully press left shift and we have our item, we want to set is sprinting to true, and when we let go we want to set it to false. What we're going to do is add an event tick here, so right click event tick, which is basically just an event that's triggered pretty much every millisecond in the game. And what we're going to do is a sequence of events. Now the first sequence of events is we want to type print string for our debug, and let's print out what our sprint meter is at. And the second thing we're going to do is give it a branch, and we want to check, are we sprinting? And if we are sprinting, now remember this is pretty much every millisecond, if we are sprinting we want to set, so remember alt drag, our sprint meter to our current sprint meter minus, let's go with something small like 0.5. So we're going to be decrementing our sprint meter. Now this will keep decrementing even if it gets past 0, so what we want to actually add is a clamp, which just forces our values to be between a certain range, and let's clamp it minimum 0, maximum 100. Let's just make a bit more room here. Perfect. And what else can we add? We need to add a regeneration, so perhaps we'll copy and paste this code, and let's just replace this minus float node with a plus float node. And 1 should do. It can regenerate quicker than you use it. That's fine. And let's just connect this up. So now we've got our add sprint, and we've got our deplete sprint. Perfect. Let's just compile and save that. So let's go over here and pick up our speed boots, and in the top left there we can see we've got our 100 value, and let's hold shift. It's depleting and it's going past negative. Let's see what we did wrong there. Oh, we forgot to connect this up. No worries. Compile and save. Let's try that again. Let's get our speed boots. Hold shift. And now we're clamped at 0, and when we let go it goes back up. Alright, so let's just add the logic now for actually stopping us sprinting once we're out of sprint. So let's go to the end of this and give another branch. And let's just check if our sprint meter equals float. And let's just see if it equals 0. And if it does, what we want to do is get our character movement. And let's set our max walk speed to back to normal, so 600. No worries. Let's compile and save that. And let's just add a branch here to also check if our sprint meter is greater than, let's just go for something like 20. So make sure we have at least 20 sprint before we allow the character to sprint. Now let's just up this so that we can see definitively if we've got our sprint working or not, because it might be hard to tell. So let's just pick up our speed boots and let's start sprinting. Now we hit 0 and now we've stopped. Now if I let go and start increasing it, now I can go again. Now it's depleted and we stop. So now we've got a successful sprinting mechanic which depletes and regenerates, which is awesome. Let's just add a quick UI here. Let's go to user interface and let's go to widget blueprint. And let's call this character HUD. Now if we go into here, let's add on the left here a progress bar. let's just put it at the bottom for now. Let's add this anchor to the bottom. All this is for scaling if we have different devices, so it doesn't really matter in our case. And if we go to percent here, we can see how that's looking. So what I'm going to do is actually bind this percentage, which is basically just creating some code to define what this percentage is affected by. And let's just start off by doing a cast to third person character. And in our object here, let's just go to get player character. And as our third person character, let's get our sprint meter. Now if you look here, our percent here is actually between 0 and 1. So what we need to do is divide this float by 100 to get our value between 0 and 1. Alright, now one more thing we've got to do. Let's just go into our third person character and right click an event begin play, which is something that just happens once this blueprint is spawned. And what we want to do is create a widget. And in the create, let's select our character HUD that we just created. And in our return value, let's just type add to viewport. Perfect. Let's just comment that out. Event begin. Compile and save, and let's just see that how that looks. Let's go get our speed boots. Let's start holding shift. We can see it's depleted. And now if I let go for it to regenerate, let's go back again. And we can see that's working perfectly as intended. And it's as easy as just adjusting these variables if we want it to be faster or slower. So let's go here and let's make that 0.2 for a bit more sprint, something a bit more realistic, like this. You can see we can now sprint for quite a while, but it regenerates quite quickly. And that's working perfectly. So hopefully after you followed all these videos, there is quite a lot that you can now do. You can adjust all sorts of variables by blueprint code. You can do a lot of checks through branches. You know how to debug. You know how to create your own custom blueprints with text above them. You know how to create a UI. This is really the basics that you need in order to create something. But look out for future videos. We'll go into specific functions to help you make, and some more advanced tutorials on 3D modeling, texturing, sound design, everything of that sort. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.